Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on my agenda is correspondence. We have a thank you letter from Suffolk BOCES, and we have some emails regarding the superintendent's contract. And then first off, we can move on to the superintendent of schools presentation.
Hi, thank you and welcome everyone. Thank you for coming who is here today and those who are watching from home. It is May 2nd and this is our board meeting. We're going to do around the district. We're going to have a general curriculum update and then we're going to review the Board of Ed candidates and the board presentation as well. So just going around the district, students in the RISE aid in the Great South Bay Seagrass Restoration Program. High school science research students recently led a hand in restoring seagrass populations on Long Island's local waters. The founder and CEO of Save Environmental worked with research students Adria Vargas and Ella Trama to use a cutting-edge method to regrow seagrass populations and restore the health of surrounding waters in Long Island. And we just want to thank those students and the program. Not only are they learning and doing research, but they're also making a difference for Long Island. Want to congratulate our Cherry Avenue students who attended a cooking class in New York City. These were our Stretch students at Cherry. Students in the Cherry Avenue Stretch Enrichment Program recently began their unit of the chemistry of cooking by taking field trips to New York City, where they attended a cooking class at Taste Bud's Kitchen. In the class, students learned how to make fresh pasta, knife skills, and other cooking techniques. All students and their parent chaperones dined on their creations, which included lasagna cakes, garlic bread, and homemade ravioli. Also want to thank the varsity baseball team. On Wednesday, April 24th, the Sayville varsity team played in their annual Salute the Troops game against Miller Place. The tradition to honor veterans on the field began in 2005 when then coach Ryan Cox saw how, who now serves as the athletic director, put this into action. 15 veterans were in attendance, including grandfathers of the boys baseball program, as well as American Legion Post 651 and VFW Post 433, amongst other veterans. All proceeds from the game were donated to veterans, to the American Legion Post and to the VFW. I just want to thank the parents and the baseball players and the team. I was at the event. It started pouring like out of nowhere, and then the sun came out, and we got the game in. So it was just a really nice experience for all of our students. Now I just want to turn it over to Ms. DiMiola, who's going to do a curriculum update. We've been working with our elementary teachers on curriculum in various areas, and Amy is going to do a update for us.
I just want to, the dates, excuse me. The dates on the for future board meetings, the 21st, I believe, is Thanksgiving. That's down there. So maybe we can relook at that.
Yeah, we'll review that.
Yes, please.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay. Amy.
I just want to also add that the Sayville girls flag football made was league champions, undefeated. So shout out to them. It was awesome. I want to shout out to Reed Sams because he might be one of the few coaches that have actually won now a league champion on both the boys and the girls side. Going in first round bye, we'll have a home playoff game, and we look forward to that. Also, I haven't been yet because they've all conflicted with flag football, but I hear the unified basketball team is quite exciting too.
Okay, Amy, take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ferris, for this opportunity to talk about the extraordinary work that our faculty has been doing this year. I could not be prouder of my colleagues and all the excitement around this. So we have an update. Board goal number 2 this year was to thoroughly review our curriculum and units of study across K-5 and make recommendations for enhancements, adjustments, and changes. And we've been doing just that. And it all has been sort of powered by the work of the curriculum committees that we put together earlier this year. And the work of those committees has led us to the creation of some roadmaps for each discipline in the K-5 area, and some really cool planning for PD coming up in the year ahead. So just to set some context, the priorities that we had when we began this work were to arrive at a shared understanding about the current approaches that we take and the current needs that we have. And we really wanted to focus on consistency across the buildings. We thought that that would be just a really important touchstone to always have as we did our work. So what we wanted to make sure we did is anchor everything we always talk about in the learning standards, because that should guide us in the work that we do, and the resources that we use as a district and would like to use as a district in order to create some roadmaps that all teachers can use as they commence instruction in September. And so one of the other thing we really needed to do was, with whatever we decide to teach, make sure that we know what our learning needs are for our faculty, so that everyone can feel supported as they move ahead. So just to give an overview, in February, we did discuss, at the end of the elementary principals presentation, we discussed the progress of the curriculum committees. And what we had said at that point was that the committees had met, we deepened our shared understanding of each area, and those committees got together to create a game plan for how we wanted to move forward in each discipline. And over the 4 committees, we had a total of 54 teacher and administrators participating, so it was a really nice lot of voice there. And then since then, we've been moving the work forward. For each discipline, we gathered teams of teacher volunteers, and they have taken a deep dive. They've worked on the learning standards and created some new insights that then they got together and put the pencil to paper and mapped out the units for the upcoming year. And we are so excited that the way this was constructed was that each discipline had complete representation. Every grade level had someone from each building and someone from special ed, someone from related services where it was relevant STEAM or reading or math AIS, or, it was as many varied voices at the table as could be. And then so we created some roadmaps for 24 and 25. And the people who were there from those buildings then could turn around and go back to grade level meetings and host discussions among their colleagues and raise awareness and make sure everyone had something to say and something to discuss about the work that's been done. I'll give a really brief discussion on each discipline area because we did tackle all 4 core discipline areas. For social studies, for the curriculum building days, over the course of multiple days, we tackled different grade levels over the course of multiple days, co-led by Mr. Bullis. We had 26 participants to examine. We spent about a half day examining the social studies framework and really rolling up our sleeves to understand it well, and using those. And we recruited some secondary social studies teachers, and really grateful for their participation because the insights that they shared created some nice opportunities for vertical articulation. And then we were able to walk away with some coordinated scope and sequence pacing guides. For science, also co-led by Mr. Bullis, we had 26 participants over the course of multiple days, where we did the same thing. We examined the science learning standards and all of the different ways that teachers are being asked to think differently about the instruction of science. We coordinated some district-wide scope and sequence pacing guides once again. And this is still underway. We just did one of the science days with 2 yet to come, and we're planning ahead for some really robust professional development opportunities in 24-25. For math, that is complete. We had 27 participants co-led by Dr. Foy. Over multiple days, we did a deep dive into the next-gen math standards, coordinated scope and sequence pacing guides, and the next steps for math, which we're very excited about and already underway in the 4th and 5th grade levels, are creating some common assessment practices across the district so students can be assessed using the same tools. And for literacy, co-led by Dr. Ein, we had 24 participants who are, those days for the scope and sequence building are yet to come because we're doing a lot of pre-work there. Our committee vetted and selected a PD provider that was going to be the word I'm looking for is connected to our current faculty's needs as possible. We chose a consultant from a company called Shifting the Balance, and it's authors of some books that had been balanced literacy teachers and gained insights into the science of reading, and went on that journey of being very committed to balanced literacy and then understanding what they needed to add to that to create a robust curriculum, not necessarily abandon it, but add to it. And so the authors of this book really resonated with our committee, and we're undergoing some professional development designed by them next year. So one of those authors will be with us to help conduct an audit, help us self-reflect, help us decide how we can build out our literacy curriculum next year so that as teachers are doing the learning, they have the tools in their hands to put in front of students to practice what they're learning. And that just couldn't be more exciting. So we have 24 teachers currently previewing the course that our teachers will be taking next year, so that we can get together at the end of this month and decide best practices for how this can look when it's rolled out to the entire faculty next year. Before we advance, there was one other curriculum committee, and that was MTSS, which I'm not going to be speaking about tonight. I'm focusing on the discipline pace and guide creation, but I just do want to make sure that it's noted the really good thinking that's been going into MTSS, co-led by Mr. Armano and Mr. Ganti, where we're taking a really global look at the needs of students and how to create a system that serves our struggling students really well. And that's ongoing work, and that will continue into next year. So just to wrap up, the top part of this slide is actually a snip from what I showed in February. And these remain the intended outcomes. Over this year, at least 100 faculty have been engaged in some design aspect. We're working on updated curriculum guidelines. We're aligning it with the standards. We're looking at common approaches to assessment and instruction. And most importantly, we're putting plans in place for coordinated, ongoing, engaging, stimulating PD. And I'm happy to say those roadmaps are nearing completion. The faculty has been participating in the discussion. We've got science and literacy at the core of where we're going to put our muscle next year with PD. And it's an iterative process. We know that everything that we're working on right now can't possibly be perfect. And so we are planning to revisit it mid-year, take notes, think about how what's going well, what we would like to change, all of the appropriate ways to be reflective transit practitioners. And finally, over the summer, I'd like to put some work into the website so that some of the work that we're doing now can be public facing, so that parents or anyone who is interested in what our curricula are can log on and take a look at how the years are mapped out. And that will be possible due to the work that's been done this year. So I just really want to thank all the teachers who have put a lot of effort into this.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add one of the comments that we heard from parents and faculty at the elementary level was that while we want to honor the uniqueness of each elementary school, the curriculum should be aligned so that every kid in every school has a similar experience. And I think the teachers have really enjoyed working across buildings to kind of create this. And I think that really makes a difference. So I want to thank Amy, and I want to thank the teachers that were involved in that creation, because it couldn't have been done without that team approach. So thank you.
Amy, I'd also like to say thank you to you and the teachers and all the participants and the principals. I did hear from some of the teachers that have been doing the work, and they are very excited about it. Albeit it's a lot, they are very excited about it. So I'm happy to see that taking hold in our elementary school. So thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments for Amy about the curriculum? Okay.
That's good.
Just the last part of my report, there are two items on the agenda that you would have been voting on that I'd like to pull from the agenda. One is the tenure recommendations. I want to talk about that with the board in executive session. And the other, I just want to address publicly with the people in the audience at home, is my contract. I'd like to pull that as well. when we talked about a month ago and you talked about the 5-year plan and that we created this 5-year plan, it seemed to make sense to say, okay, there's a 5-year plan, have a 5-year contract. But it's clearly created some upsetment in the community. And I have work to do to make sure we address some of that. So I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's warranted. And I think we should hold off on that. And I have 2 years to prove myself to the rest of the people in the room. So thank you.
I want to say that I think that both of those are noble. I think that we have to do a little research into the tenure piece just to make sure that we understand the dates and how things work out. And as for you, although we have faith of you, and as a board, that still needs to carry through. We see it from a different lens, and it would have been tone deaf, I think, to push forward, knowing that there were some questions, and that doesn't mean that there isn't faith in the 5-year plan, and stay committed to it. And I thank you for that.
I'd just like to add, I agree with Christine. I think in this current climate, this is the right decision.
Thank you.
Appreciate your responsiveness and considering the big picture and doing what you feel is best for the community, Mark.
Okay. I would just also like to point out, as everybody was on, well, not everybody, because I wasn't on vacation, but people on vacation last week, just to recap the budget process. I mean, the district, we were, hit severely with the governor's cut. And I have to commend the district, the whole community for coming together and advocating that we get our state aid back. Fortunately, we were able to get the same state aid as last year, but that still left us with a tight budget. And I think with the superintendent and the administration and all the staff working together, we were able to come up with a budget that maintains the level of education that we want in Sayville. It gave the opportunity for teachers to retire, and it also protected jobs, which was, I feel very proud about that as a board. And that was done under Mark's leadership. And I firmly believe that this district is in a better place now. We have reached out to the community. We instituted the survey. We asked all stakeholders to put their input. The superintendent has consolidated that. He's allowed and empowered the individual schools to come up with their goals. They're aligned with the overall goals of the district. We're putting things in place like the world language program at the younger level. We have STEAM throughout all 3 elementary schools. We put in extra services for students. There are a lot of good things happening in this district, and I'm proud of that. And I would hope everybody in Sayville is proud of that. And we're committed to this community to offer the best education possible for our students. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. Next item on the board. Okay. We have, let me just go through some dates. We had Nassau Suffolk School Board meeting on May 30th at the Hamlet Golf and Country Club. They will be honoring John Boudon, our previous board president, for Distinguished School Board Service Award. And board members, please advise Julie by May 22nd if you would like to attend. We have board candidates for the seats held by Carl Cangelosi, Kelly Sack, and John Boudon, who were the last incumbents. Kathy Van Dorn is running for Carl's seat. Is she in the audience today? Kathy Van Dorn? No, okay. We have Teal Rizzo running against Kelly Sack for the open seat. Is Teal in the audience? Okay. Okay. And then we have Kyle Valentine running against Desmond Magna for John Boudon's seat. Is Kyle here? Kyle's in the back. And Desmond, I saw a hand. Okay, there you are. Okay. Now, hold on one second. Okay. So upcoming dates that we have related to the election, we have on May 14th at 4:30 to 7:30 p.m., we have evening voter registration at the administration building. On May 14th at 7:30 p.m., we have the budget hearing followed by a workshop meeting. On May 14th, we have the last to request absentee ballot by mail. On May 16th, we have the last day to register to vote at 3 p.m. at the administration building. And on May 24th, the last day to request absentee ballot in person. And then on May 20th. And then on May 21st, we have the annual budget and election between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. at the old junior high. Okay, so do we have any other questions or?
I actually have a question. At our last meeting, there was a good question that was asked regarding the early submission of the school district property tax report card. And I just wanted to ask Rhonda and Mark if either one of you could address that, please.
Yeah, I'll address it. So as everyone knows, the state was very late in adopting a legislative budget, and we had to wait as late as possible to have the adoption night. So the night we adopted was on Tuesday. I forget the exact date, but it was Tuesday during the vacation. So on the Friday, because we had not anticipated in advance that it would take that long for the state to do what they did, Rhonda was leaving the state for vacation, and we weren't sure if she was going to be able to have internet access. So I gave her permission to submit it, noting that if anything changed, we would have to change it. But there was going to be no way to submit it in time if she was not in the state. So that's why we did it.
Okay, and was there any penalty or problem with that?
There was no penalty or problem with that. It is required to be submitted 24 hours after the board adopts the budget. But I also wanted to just highlight the fact that on April 16th, which was the original Board of Ed adoption night for the budget, that property tax report card, the same one that was submitted and the same one that is part of the budget information, was presented in public session in a presentation. So
Okay.
there was, full transparency there.
Okay, thank you. And then
Hold
other
on,
part of
Barbara,
that
what is there, so there's no penalty for submitting it early. What's the penalty for submitting it late?
I don't know. I've never experienced that. But I would rather not find out. Yeah. And, April 23rd was the very last day that the board
It
would
was
be
very
able to
important for us to
adopt.
make sure that we had that submitted
Yes.
before the date.
Okay. And then there was another question about the differences between the three-part budget that was asked last week, and I wanted to get some answers about that as well.
Yeah, Rhonda can kind of explain, there was about $100,000 difference in the administrative budget, just the reason why.
The time frame and the change in the dates and all of this information, along with trying to timely accumulate the data that goes into the very detailed budget newsletter that goes out. The timing of all of this was such that a presentation was made for first I want to highlight that the total did not change. So the difference was specifically related to FICA, which is a district-wide employee benefit expense that needs to be manually allocated among the three-part budget, that being the administrative, program and capital piece of the budget. So that was done. And then after that, knowing that we were going to, it looked like we were getting the 3.4 back, the newsletter, which takes an entire day to accumulate that data in the three-part to a much greater detail. It was found out that about 500,000 of the FICA was not allocated correctly. So through that, there was another opportunity to present in public that information correctly, which has stood since then. And that's why additional slides were actually added to the budget adoption evening and presentation, so that was appropriately reflected.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay. um, Is there any other board comment or discussion? No?
I did want to mention that I went to the Sayville University at the middle school on Monday, and it was pretty cool. There's lots of different vendors there from around town, and there's a bunch of students there. I think there could have been a few more students, but there were several games and activities and rehearsals going on. But I think it was a great start to that, and hope to see that it will continue.
Okay, so now we'll have public comment for agenda items. Can I have a show of hands who would like to speak regarding the agenda? One. Okay, just hold on one second. Let me just read. Okay, regarding public comment, the Board of Education appreciates feedback from the community, and we recognize free speech as one of our fundamental freedoms. These freedoms are not without restrictions. We follow regulations specified by law and board policy, and we encourage our community members to offer public comment. According to Sayville's Board Policy 1230, we request the following. Participants in public session must demonstrate civility as they address the board and community. 30 minutes has been set aside for comments by the public. The board reserves the right to limit or extend public participation if it deems necessary. Comments and questions from the public are limited to 3 minutes per person and should be related to school matters. Speakers are requested to identify themselves or the group they represent and direct their comments to the board. The board will not permit discussion involving individual students, district personnel, or community members. The full policy is available on the district website, and we appreciate your support to having a productive meeting. Now, if you've been to board meetings before, we started a process of only having public comment first on the agenda items, and then we have an open public comment for other school items at the end. So if you'd like to have.
Hello, everyone. I'll say my name. It is Teal Rizzo. What's done is done now with the budget being submitted to the state. And I guess we can go back and forth, but I have been in touch with the state and I have the calendar. The last possible date was the 29th, which was past the 24 hours after the board approved it. However, it is required that the budget is the budget and the board approved it because it's not one until our representatives approve it. So it was submitted 5 days prior to that date. I realize you went away, but it could also be submitted via mobile if you have a sign on in the state website. It doesn't necessarily have to be internet. So going forward, the board really needs to prove it. That's okay. That's what we just spoke about it, didn't we? Okay. Okay. So we pulled off an item. I just want to ask a quick couple of questions because it was there and that's not. I don't know. I just want to make a statement, I guess. I'd love to ask, but I know I won't get an answer. The budget hasn't passed yet. And there are these items on there. They were quite high in spending. And it was a contract renewal for a long period of time. And our budget hasn't passed yet. If, God forbid, say the community does not pass that budget or even doesn't pass the second one, what would that have done to our instructional program? So that's a concern. The other one I was asking about, is this going to come back up in June once the budget passes? As a board, I guess you have to make that decision. Maybe you don't know now, but the community should be aware that if they're not crazy about the idea, because we are looking at state cuts coming forward, we need to be mindful of that as a board. Okay. And thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Ferris, for removing it. But I'm worried about it coming back on, to tell you the truth. Have a good night.
I have a question. I'm not sure. It's about the agenda item that was pulled, but it's really, yesterday I had asked a question at the PTA meeting, and I was told that the board had told the superintendent that he could not get a 0% increase in a raise. Okay. That is what he told myself and the other parents that were in the room at the PTA meeting. When I asked about the 1% increase.
Say-
So I asked why he thought it was a good time to ask for an increase in his salary with everything that's going on. And he said that the board said that he couldn't get a 0% increase. So I'm curious as to why the board would say that. Seemed a little off to me that you wouldn't not allow him to get a raise. So I just would like to address that because
Okay, I think there's some confusion with that. I think it would be better because it's a sensitive topic that you can make the inquiry. We can't discuss people's salaries.
I don't want to discuss his salary. What I want to discuss is, did the board tell the superintendent that he could not get a raise, if that makes sense?
I just want to clarify. I think what I said was I offered that I could take a 0, and they said that the 1% would be an okay raise. But I didn't say they could not. I said they said that they would offer me a 1% raise.
I mean, you.
All right, but I understand what you're saying.
I'm not going to have an
understand.
argument about this, but literally, there were many people there that witnessed the same thing that I did. Okay, so I'm looking for clarification from the board, not from you, from the board, of whether or not.
I'm not gonna disclose personnel discussions about someone's salary. I can't do that.
I just want to
Yeah.
know if you're.
Yeah,
We're not discussing negotiations. I want you. If he said he didn't want to raise, you wouldn't not allow him.
That would be part of a discussion. That's why I can't do that. I'm sorry. I mean, yeah. Any other questions? Okay, I do want to clarify one thing that Ms. Rizzo spoke about. She said, why put it on the agenda now and why not later? There's two views on this. Some districts, or in the past, we have put the superintendent's contract in June. And, my personal belief, from a finance point of view, it would be more transparent to put it to the public before the vote, and that would be more transparent. And that's why it was done at this time. Okay, it was for the sake of transparency, and also our process was moving along. Sometimes it takes longer to do the whole process, but there are comments online like this is nefarious, or we're trying to sneak something through. That was not the case. It was just that it was ready, it was available, and again, I thought it would be more transparent to be open to the public and say this is what we're doing before we vote on the budget. So, and that I just want to clarify that because she was saying, why did we do it earlier and not later? Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now we have to move on. Okay, so I need a motion. Oh, there's no.
Just have one more question.
Sure.
You rescinded the portion, my name is Wendy. You rescinded the portion where you were requesting an extension. However,
The whole thing.
are you also rescinding the additional pieces to your contract?
Yes, the whole thing.
5 days?
The whole item, the whole document.
Okay. So I need a motion to, 1 second, which items were they? Need a motion to table, where is it? 903 and 803. Excuse me, we'll have another public session after we do business, and then I'll get to you. 1 second. Okay. Can I have a motion for those two items? To table those two items? And Maureen, was it you? Yeah, so it's Carl and Maureen. Oh, Christine, I'm sorry. So those two items are tabled. Then to go on to regular business, I need a motion for, what? Oh, sorry. Okay, discussion, a vote. All those in favor, against? Okay, motion is tabled. Okay, then, sorry. I need a motion for recommended actions, minutes 601 to recommended actions, finance 707. Motion?
Motion.
Second. Okay, that's Kelly and Maureen. All the discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I would like to note that the district is accepting an $8,000 donation for the Mitchell Cangelosi Sustainability Scholarship Fund. So I'd like to thank the foundation for that, as well as a $4,000 donation from the Mitchell Cangelosi Athletic Scholarship Fund. So thank you very much for both of those.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so all those in favor? Against? Motion passes. Then I need a motion for new business personnel, 801 through 804, excluding 803. Motion?
Motion.
Okay, that's Kelly and Christine. Discussion? All those in favor? Against? Motion passes. And then I need a motion for new business other 901 to 903. Oh, sorry, 902.
Excluding 903.
Okay, that's Kelly and Carl. Discussion? All those in favor? Against? Motion passes. Okay, now we can open up to general public comment. Can I have a show of hands if anybody would like to speak?
Do you want to talk about upcoming dates?
Okay.
What was the question? Can you repeat the question?
So if you're taking that away, right, your contract, your renewal, your raise, everything, and Tom, you're saying that you're taking it away for now, when is it gonna come back up? Like, when are we gonna have this conversation over again? Is it gonna be in June? Is it gonna be in 2 years when his contract's up? I think
I'm going to talk
that's a
about the
question that
salary piece and how that
everyone
works every year.
is, when are we gonna have to?
No, I mean, as of this time, it's tabled. We don't have any timeline when it's going to be on the agenda again. But
When do you typically renew contracts?
May and June.
No, I mean, before they come to an end. Is it a year before when the renewal?
No, usually the superintendent's contract is visited every year. Because if you look at the original contract, there are no schedules for future years.
But in the past 2 years, the contract has been extended a year, I think another time 8 months. So I think from my understanding of what the community has said to me, there is or questions around why it was a 3-year extension this time instead of a 1 year, or why even a third extension when there was already 2 years on the contract.
I mean, it's at the board's discretion to.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Why did the board want to do that? I think that's the question that I've been trying to get.
Well, in general, like what I said in my my comments earlier, we have accomplished a lot of things in this district with the leadership.
Well, I was told the 5-year contract was because of the 5-year plan that was made. So can you speak to the 5-year plan and why Dr. Harris is so integral to achieving the goals of that 5-year?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as we've gone through with the last year and a half, when he was hired, we rolled out this whole survey to get stakeholder feedback, and he's been with the administration, designing this whole plan for the district. I mean, that's what we brought him into the district to do. And of course, we have certain objectives that we would like to do, and you need somebody to carry that out.
No, I understand
Yeah.
that. So do you think the plan now will suffer because of a lack of a 5-year plan and a 5-year contract?
I mean, It's subjective. I mean, there's a whole bunch of influences in that. To me, if you get like in my field of work, if you gave somebody a project to do and it's going to take 5 years to do it, I guess you would kind of expect them to be there for 5 years. You wouldn't give them a 2-year contract. That's the way. I see it from my background. But we have to revisit that, and we'll see how we have to deal with it. I mean, that's fine. Okay.
I just wanted to piggyback on that comment. In my field of work,
Sure.
I'm a director for a very large hospital system. We have many projects that go on for many years, future goals, 10 to 20 years. When there's a budget issue, those projects immediately come off the table with any discussion. So I'm not sure how far you went. So I'm talking tens of millions of dollars, $100 million real estate deals immediately come off the table, even if there's budget issues.
Yeah, but this is not a project in that regard. We're not building like say a building or something like that. It's the whole program that we're developing and evaluating the whole program. And I can understand what you say. There's different points of view on that subject. I mean, there's different ways to handle projects.
Also come to you and say he's not willing to take a raise. Why his interest would you offer him that he wants that?
That again, I can't talk about.
You guys say you can't talk about it, but a community member somehow knew almost exactly the conversation was on. So it's always been private knowledge. How did she know?
Again, I didn't have the conversation, so I don't know about it. Okay.
Well, the 1% raise was specified in the public document on the agenda. So if it was a public document with nothing redacted including that, why can't the 1% raise be discussed? Also, there were specific financial figures in that agenda. I don't think anyone.
Okay. I would give the okay. Let me just say.
So this is kind of how that works. So the document itself is the finalized version of the outcome of the negotiation for the MOA between the board and the superintendent, right? What the public is not privy to, though, are the executive session discussions and those negotiations that go on that lead up to that document. In other words, what the district's, the board's starting position was, what the superintendent's starting position was. So that lead up to the final document, that's not a matter. Hold on. You're going to let me finish. So the lead up to that, that's not something that's in the public domain. How somebody else found out about that, I don't think the board. No. How the negotiation process itself, what happened, what somebody said. So that process itself, again, not subject to public disclosure, but the document itself is.
I don't think the issue is what's on for public disclosure. I think the issue is the board was elected to vote what the public wants. And if there's a budget crisis that he's been on the news talking about for the past month, and now shifts in a contract extension for 5 years when his contract still has 2 years left, when we're in a budget crisis, that he's more than happy to go on News 12 and talk about, and then he offers up a concession saying, I don't want a raise, I'll take a raise, I just want my time to stay here. We have a right to know why the board said, no, we're gonna give you a 1% raise. It's our money. We have a right to know that. It's not a discussion, I don't care how you go back and forth. I wanna know why you're spending our money on a contract, especially one that's not up for renewal for 2 more years. When optics are important, and as your words, it looks nefarious, right? That's what you said the community is saying. It does look nefarious that a contract renewal is coming up a month before a budget election, that we're in budget crisis, and now it's on the table, and now magically on public record it gets pulled. Because optics, and Dr. Ferris knows, optics are very important in this day and age. We've been through this a lot with CETA, with the optics, with what's been going on. And optics are important. And the optics of this look nefarious, that you're sliding something in here to make it look like you're
thank you.
hero,
Thank you.
pulling it off the table.
No,
And we have
I
a
gave-
right to know
I-
why you voted and said that you would give him a 1% raise when we're in a budget.
Unfortunately,
So I think there's a number of, so there's a number of reasons, and you can, the board can speak to it somewhat generically as to why there would be an increase, notwithstanding an employee saying, I don't want one, I don't need one, I'm fine, right? So it's a showing of support on behalf of the board for the superintendent. It's a sharing of support for the work the superintendent is doing, whether it's with the administrative staff, central office, or with the teaching staff, right? It's a showing of faith that they believe that the superintendent is going to follow through on the plan that he's laid out for them over the next 3.5 years. So there's a number of reasons why the board would insert 1% raise, for example, as opposed to a 0. So I think the 1 is a conservative number. I understand that there's budget concerns, but we're not talking about a 3% raise. 1%, I'm not going to call it a token, but it's somewhat of a showing of faith on behalf of the board toward the superintendent that he's going to carry out the plan that was promised. So, like I said, the board's not going to get into talking about the negotiation, how it ended up at 1%, where the superintendent ultimately ended up. But there's a number of reasons why a board would settle with a 1% or more raise as opposed to a 0, even though the superintendent's saying, I don't want one.
Okay.
It's amazing how tone deaf all of you are. You can't say that there's no faith in this room and anything, and you dismiss people like they work for you. It's the other way around. It's the other way around, and none of you seem to get it.
Okay. Can I say something? Just 1 second. Excuse me. I just would like to say something. Some things were raised. Some things were raised just before, and I just want to say, I was asked a question. I gave my honest answer. That's why we voted on the contract before the budget, because I wanted to be transparent. That is my honest answer. I'm sorry if you feel that's different. Okay, now, yeah, the woman, you had a question. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay, I can't hear you. Can you come over here, please?
We voted as a community for the people who are sitting at this table. We voted, we wanted you here. You're supposed to be representing us and our interests. There is a large group in this community that are not happy with what's happening here. You're supposed to be representing our interests, not your interests and what you think should be happening in our community district. And you guys are not doing a good job. You're not representing our community fairly.
Thank you. If you'd like to come up.
Just the community member asked you guys to give a reason, and then the lawyer spoke. Why did that just happen?
Because it's a personnel matter, and I don't want to break any laws.
His last sentence was, it's a 1% raise in good faith that he'll carry out the plan. Is that a threat to the community that he doesn't get a 1%
No,
raise?
no.
Then why didn't you just say that?
Okay.
You said it.
Okay. Do we have any other questions besides the contract? Any other
I have a
questions?
statement that might help some of the people understand here. Dr. Ferris is, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug. Dr. Ferris's original contract to get a raise of any sort, 0.2%, 1%, 5%, has to be amended by an amendment. Okay, so there has to be another document to give him a raise. My concern with that, I already stated to all of you. My problem, and I think a lot of the tension in the community, and maybe you can address this, is I don't know how many nurses, how many teachers we have here, but who else's contract, and I'm talking about the term limit of the contract, is opened during its term and extended. I'm sure nurses would love it. They go with no contract for a long time. I don't know if our teachers have ever done that. Hopefully not. But they don't open their contract. You don't say, hey, let's open teachers' contracts and extend this raise 8 more years. So there's a lot of frustration in the community, okay, on those topics. So I understand the raise part, we need an amendment. I've read his original contract and the amendments, but the whole extension, we need to rethink this. It doesn't happen to the rest of the community that are working class people in this town. Okay, that's all. Thank you again. And I think that's the end of my comments, hopefully for the night.
Okay, thank you. Is that it then? Yes.
I just want to ask a question and clarify. My understanding is, since the state aid has been restored, that no programs are being cut and no teachers are being let go, as was in the original budget.
That's correct. And all units are getting their plan raises as well that are in their contracts.
Can you comment on the, I just have a follow-up. Can you comment on the teachers that retired and then other teachers not necessarily replaced their exact jobs, but were hired in other capacities?
Yeah, I mean, do the enrollments,
Yeah, so in certain areas in the school, the enrollment was down. So when the teacher retired, we may or may not have needed to replace them. And then in other areas, say at the elementary level where we had some cuts, we were able to restore some teachers. Like in first grade where the class sizes were getting high, we added a first grade teacher in each elementary school. But at the high school where there was lower enrollment, we're losing a class of 238 or around there, and we're gaining a class of about 200. We were able to reduce there when the retirement took place and then support the elementary school where there might have been a need. So while some retirements were replaced, others were not, and then some positions were created to fill areas that were of need.
okay. Thank you. And I think do we have dates, right? Okay, we have some upcoming dates. On May 6th is the PTA Council presents Meet the Candidates Night at the middle school cafeteria at 7 p.m. May 7th, Cherry Avenue Spring Chorus Concert at the high school, 7 p.m. On May 8th, the middle school spring concert number 2. On May 9th, the middle school concert number 3. On May 14th, evening voter registration from 4 to 7:30 p.m. And May 14th, the budget hearing workshop at 7:30 p.m. And I just want to close that I have been elected to the board several times, and my goal as a community member is to serve the community as a whole. I try not to just serve my own special interests. I try to serve the community as a whole. And I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you. I need a motion to adjourn.
Also, I
To go to, sorry, you got to go to exec session to talk regarding a specialized vendor contract.
Is the Lincoln Avenue psychologist also receiving his job?
I'll speak to you about that if you want to talk to me tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, I need a motion. Hold on, any discussion, all those in favor? Okay, motion passes. We're going into exec session. Thank you.